I retired from Valparaiso University in January of 2002. That spring, Ann and I sold our Valparaiso home and moved into a condo in Bloomington, Indiana. At the time, I was in possession of a good many shop tools. In addition to those I had acquired, I had many from Dad and Grandpa. There was room for a small shop in the garage of the condo, but certainly not enough for all my tools. Besides, where I really need the tools was at the lake, so we decided to build a shop at the cabin. We took temporary storage in Valpo for the tools we would bring north using our one-time settler's privilege at the border. We planned to build the shop early in the summer of 2002, then go back to Valpo, rent a truck, and bring the tools north. This is the story of building the shop you see pictured. I had done the figuring on the lumber needed by the 1st of June. The shop was to have 4 substantial skylights and wide double doors on each end for easy access. In addition, there was a 4-foot wide lumber and larger tool storage area on one side. We hired a barge from Two Bears Marina in Keewatin to bring the lumber out. The siding for this structure was what they call chalet. It was 3/8 inch, which would normally just cover a layer or two of subsiding, but for the shop it serves as walls. The total you can see is around $3,300, and we spent more for some windows. I imagine we spent closer to $4,000 by the time we finished. Here comes the barge with 2 men on board to help with the unloading. The best place to unload was down on the point, where the barge could get close to shore. Don and Carol Ann were in camp and helped with the unloading. This series of shots shows the process. As usual, we had to lay planks to walk on from the barge to shore. We had more plywood to unload than ever before. We did not try to organize the lumber as we took it off, as we were to haul it up the hill to the building site very soon. What you are seeing is enough lumber for a 16 by 14 very rough building. It still needs to get up the hill. In this picture you can see the roof shingles and a roll of aluminum flashing for the skylights. Mrs. Hostler is getting ready for the next step. Ann's Lake Journal states that this picture was taken for Peter, who has endured years of teasing for getting ready to work in exactly the same way. We all made a lot of trips up the hill with boards. So here we're starting to build. The joist headers sit on cement piers that go a ways into the ground. The center of the joist is supported by a 4x4 beam. Flooring is tongued and grooved plywood subfloor. Normally one would cover this with some sort of durable floor, but the plywood serves well for the shop. Once the floor is in, the stud walls can go up. Ann is looking through the space for one of the 3 windows that look out towards the garden. Once the stud walls were up, we could put the siding on. This siding was 3/8 inch chalet style plywood panels. Normally this is just the outer layer of siding, but for a summertime shop, that is enough wall. Since we had the help of a generator we purchased in 1988, we screwed the wall to the studs. Now, with small deck type screws. The original panels were orange, but as you can see, we stained them Oxford brown to go with the rest of the cabin. After the walls come the 2x6 rafters. These were on 16-inch centers, except where the 4 skylights were to go. These were placed toward the lake end because we wanted a 4-foot wide attic on the other end. Here I am measuring to fill the spaces created by the height of the rafters above the walls. The shop is not mouse-proof, but we did not want squirrels nesting in there. So far, with no food in the shop, the mice, which are rampant in the woods, have not taken up residence. The roof sheeting was 5/8 inch oriented strand board, OSB they call it, which is supposedly stronger than an equivalent thickness of plywood and much cheaper. It's a bit tricky to handle a 4x8 sheet up that high. We screwed the panels to the rafters just like we did the siding to the studs. We left holes for the skylights. We made 2x4 frames for the skylights, which are basically plastic bubbles attached to those frames. They do not open, and with proper flashing they have not leaked. For the flashing, we cut small pieces of aluminum from our roll and overlapped them as we went from bottom to the top on the sides of the frames. We put plenty of goop on and found no leaks. On July 12th, we left for a few weeks back in Bloomington and to fetch the tools in Valpo. The tar paper was on the roof, but not the shingles yet. Unless we had a big blow, there should be a relatively dry place for the tools when we returned the 1st of August. Emily and Christina had spent the last week in July at A. Rene and were there to greet us when we returned. The next day was a very windy one, but John, the barge operator, said they would be okay. We went to town and helped load the barge at Two Bears Marina in Keewatin. They covered everything with a large tarp, as you can see. He had a young helper by the name of Gavin. Emily and Christina are shown welcoming Gavin to Middle Island. I was hoping Em could help with the roofing, but they had to get back, so we raced the barge back to Kenora with the girls. We won, of course, but it was a very bumpy ride. In this picture, you can see John and I unloading the Shopsmith. This is a multi-purpose woodworking tool that has been in the family since before 1950. It is still going strong in the shop today. The men made sure that the heavier items were up the hill before leaving. Part of the load was drawers and drawers of screws and washers from Ann's dad. Inevitably, some of these items dumped out on the point. I imagine that if you were to use a magnet, you could still retrieve a few washers from the soil on the point. We had 2 large workbenches with many drawers. You can see a good portion of the load piled up in the shop. Anne wrote in her journal that I was a little let down after all the work of moving, but we had 2 months to complete and organize the shop. I got over it quickly. The next week I managed to get the skylights installed, and Rich arrived to take Em's place as roofer. The roof was finished just before a good rain. There was still a lot of organizing to do, including where to store the 2 or 3 toilet seats we had brought. Emily wanted to know just how many toilet seats one family needs. These were nice oak seats, and they have found uses in our various outhouses. Installing the door and windows took some time. The painter is at work on a trim, which is red like all the other at A. Rene. You can see a 6-foot wide double door I constructed from V-joint. The next shot shows 3 windows. They were much better quality than need be, but they were on sale. The 2 workbenches are in place, and you can see the Shopsmith in the foreground. A metal storm door provides access to the garden, and a second set of double doors open to the outdoor workyard in the back. Finally, I'm posing with the radial arm saw, which has followed us all the way from California. In these 3 pictures, you will see the completed shop. The 4x16 storage area is on the left. The sawhorse is already in its accustomed place in the workyard, and there is a chipper shredder that came on the truck with all the rest. We have 2 extension ladders and numerous shovel-like tools. The second picture is what it looks like with the doors closed. Each night I check that all doors are closed to keep the critters out. We occasionally get a bird in there during the day, especially when both doors are open. Finally, we have the north side wall, which we see from the cabin. This is pretty much the way we left it at the end of September in 2002. Whenever you build something, you cannot anticipate exactly how it will get used. Little did we realize how much we would use and enjoy our new shop. In subsequent years, we have added a bit to the shop, i.e. things we thought could improve its function. The rain barrel catches water from the north side roof and provides a good source in our efforts to keep the garden well watered. From August on, the lake blooms, and sometimes it's hard to pump good clear laundry water. We then use water from the barrel for our laundry. You can also see the ramp we built going up to the lakeside door. It can be a little slippery, so we install cleats that work quite well. In 2003, we purchased the 5,000 watt Honda generator. It's too heavy to be portable, so we added a small generator shed to the shop. That means there are 3 doors on the wood side to secure and an additional dormer-style roof. Here is the shop as it looks now. It serves as an anchor for the deer fence that protects the garden. It's also a good backdrop for the garden. The work yard in the back serves all sorts of projects, from gardening to woodworking to working on the canoe. The shop itself serves, as we had hoped it would, as the hub for the hundreds of maintenance chores we do each summer. It also provides a quick and easy storage for those items we want inside for the winter. All in all, I can unequivocally pronounce the shop project a success.